I got an email notification from Kenya Airways into my inbox, which I get on a regular basis during the week normally, and it's normally about their rate fares and rubbish that I normally breeze over. And I opened it up and it said Nairobi is locking down with immediate effect. So I was like, are you kidding me?
Literally, we were on the flight down to Kenya when the restrictions changed. When we landed in Kenya, that's where we were kind of like let know that, oh, by the way, we're gonna have to tweak some things.
So my first port of call before I even thought about anything else was getting hold of Billy, because if anything's happening in Nairobi, Billy knows what's going on. So I got a hold of Billy and he said, no, he has not heard this. This is rubbish. It can't be happening. And he phoned me back within 5 minutes and he's like, oh, guess what? It's just been on the news. So we were in a situation where we had both guide and guest in the air, and we didn't know what we were going to be able to do with them.
So it was great to have you guys, like, while we were flying, you were already like behind the scenes working on it, trying to figure out like what the specifications were and what we could do and what we couldn't do.
So the first point of call was to get hold of our airline, the lady that books our flights, and say to Inga, can we get them out? Can we get them to South Africa? Can we make arrangements? What do we need to do? And Billy was like, no, let's just see what happens, because they're in Nairobi, they can just stay here tonight. So immediately Tanya and I sat down and devised a plan about how, instead of traveling directly out of Nairobi, for them to continue their trip, flip their trip around and have them stay at Giraffe Manor if possible on arrival instead of at the end. And yes, make a plan. That's what we have to do.
Yeah, and I remember I was also in the air as we were flying into Kenya, and Billy, the first question he asked me is like, I think you need to sit down. I need to tell you something. And the Kenyan government, while both the two of you and myself were in the air, Kenya shut down their country, basically going into a code red. And I mean, thinking back to that safari, we had, if not daily, hourly updates with changes coming from South Africa, intel coming from Kenyan intel. And yeah, it was, I can't even imagine how stressful it would have been on me and on the two of you if we didn't have the team we have on the ground.
So as soon as we landed, you guys were already kind of on top of it and working on it, so we could kind of just settle in, start our trip. And mostly you, Mike, kind of worked on it with the logistics team, and we were able to kind of just start our vacation and, I mean, not worry about it, but be able to enjoy our vacation as much as possible while you guys kind of did like behind the scenes hard work.
When we make a decision in our office, specifically plans for things that have either gone wrong or are going wrong or potentially could go wrong, we obviously had a plan should they not be able to get into the country, but they were already in the country when it went into lockdown. And for us to have that original plan B, what would we do with them if they couldn't come into the country? Exactly for in the same instance, what else could they do if they couldn't get to South Africa in the other trip? And the communication between the girls in the logistics team, so in this case it was Tanya, because she looks after the private guided trips, and Judy and myself, and we all get onto a call, or we sit in the office and we come up with scenarios. We figure out what can happen, what can't happen. We go with the best gut feel scenario normally, and then we communicate that directly to the guide on the ground. He knows what we're thinking at all times. So if we say do this, they know why we're saying do that. So they have an understanding that we've said we've made a decision because of another reason. And I think COVID has taught us that we make lots of plans for lots of scenarios, and we're able to now fall back on some of those plans. So the communication that the guest was getting was ongoing communication, because we were on the ball. We knew exactly who was closing what and where. And look, at 2 hours after they landed, I think they said they could fly to Amboseli. They couldn't drive. But we were already flying them the next day to Amboseli, and we just moved the flight slightly so that they could get there. So there was always a plan. There's always one of us on the internet scouring to find out the information. There's always somebody on the ground. So if it's here or if it's in Nairobi, there's somebody on the ground that's got an ear to the ground, and that's important for the guide because they then don't need to do that. They have got us to do that groundwork for them.
I mean, I think that was the thing, is that when, you know, you were with us, you were in contact with Billy and the guys there in Kenya. So like from our point of view, like our actual itinerary in the beginning didn't really change. We still did our game drives as we normally would. We still did our Lightroom with you. You know, our schedule stayed the same because you were kind of taking your, you know, downtime and rest time to kind of like talk with those guys and make sure everything was good to go. And then once we were in the second part of our itinerary where we were on our own, I think you had set up a WhatsApp chat with Billy, right? So you guys were kind of constantly messaging, and it was just easy communication, and they kept us informed at all times so that, you know, we could still just enjoy our vacation and relax as much as possible.
Mike would have landed in Nairobi that day. He would have been told that this is what the situation was. He would have had to have found an overnight hotel for his guests because he wouldn't have had the capacity to be able to change the itinerary. And he would have asked them to turn around and go home. And their experience of a trip to Kenya in that instance would have been, we spent a long time on the plane on the way there and a long time on the way back. We didn't see anything, and it was very unfortunate, and we'll try again. The same with the South African safari. I know of many operators that turned around and said, well, you know, I can't assist you, I'm going on my annual leave. So we'll talk to you again in January when we open up. I can tell you now, I was already at the beach and I was still working on this to make sure that either they got to Kenya or they got to South Africa. There was no other option.
Yeah, I think everything as a whole for the SLAT trip was fantastic. It was a combination of sightings and accommodations and guides. Really just was excellent.
I think from this last trip, my standout memory would be the cubs, of course. The little 6 or 7 week old leopard cubs that were just so cute. We actually got to be and spend time with and witness them playing. And then we actually came back a little bit later and they were a little more relaxed and kind of cuddled up with mom. So that was a really good experience. I think from Kenya, probably my standout experience there was when we spent that one day in the private concession, and we were able to kind of get off the vehicle and be in ground level with the elephants. They were just walking right next to us, just totally relaxed, you know, I don't even know how far, but just right there up next to us, and just to be that close and to experience it was just really,
quite an thrilling feeling, being on foot with these giants. It really is something special.
And I'm glad that they remember the leopard cubs, because that's a best memory to have out of a holiday like that. And that's what it's all about. It's making sure that they get on the ground to be able to do and see what they want to see.